Hi everyone, so we are going to do my Boxycharm. I'm gonna do a try-on style with this. Let's just get started. So the first thing I see in here is the It Brow Power Universal Brow Pencil. It's in Universal Taupe. I believe they only make one shade in this. It is a point kind of like this. It's not a fine tip point, but it's also not like the stereotypical triangle. It's more like an oval. And then it does have a spoolie on the other end. I'm going to go ahead and grab a mirror. I want to also, let's see. So new lighting. I'm going to try this pencil out. I do have an It pencil already, but it's the like precise pencil. When I do my brows, I don't fill them in a whole ton. I like a more natural brow. But I just fill in the sparse area, like kind of in front. And then any kind of patchiness. And then I just bring the color throughout the brow so it looks uniform. And then I sometimes extend the tail of my brow just a little bit. The spoolie is soft, I will say that. Which is kind of nice, because if you have too hard of a spoolie, it will take out some of your brow hairs. Which I think is just mean. I always have a harder time with this brow. Does anyone else have a brow that's their favorite brow? I definitely have a favorite brow. And this one is not it. Color-wise, I think it's an okay color. It's definitely one of those that, like, because it's universal, you're not going to necessarily get the truest color match. Obviously, if you press down harder, it'll make it... Ignore that. I got my Birchbox and I was opening that. Here's kind of light pressure. You can obviously deepen it up. You go real light so it's barely noticeable. You just gotta play around with it, but I think it's a pretty multi-use brow pencil. I feel like most people will be able to make it work. The next thing I see in here is the Pores No More Luminizer Primer by Dr. Brant. It's in this little tube here. I've never tried it out. It says apply on clean, moisturized skin. Use alone for a natural bounce of light on the skin or under makeup to prep your skin for a flawless application AM and PM. So, oh, it's a twist off. I kind of thought it was like pulled. It's in a little squeezy tube. It's going to take about yay much. I actually need a little bit more. It has an interesting smell to it. Not bad, just it definitely does have a scent. It's not super luminizing, but I do see, I don't know, it's like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like a dewy look. A dewy look. The next thing I see in here is this Glam Metals palette by Crown. I did see a sneak peek on it on, I forget who. I think it was Laura Lee's Snapchat or Instagram. So here's what the palette looks like. It's pretty. They are all shimmers except for black metal right here, and I believe the Wicked is also a satin instead of like these kind of look more like foiled. So I'm gonna grab another palette to pair with this real quick, and then I will create an eye look for you. I do want to point out the mirror is a guitar. That's kind of cute. So I did go ahead and grab a palette. I grabbed this Pixie one just because there is a good amount of neutral mattes in here that I figured I could make work with the palette, and it kind of has a couple colors that seem a little similar. I mean, not outrageously similar, but like just color tone themed, it seems pretty complementary. So I feel like this is a good palette to pair with it. You can use any palette you want. I just don't recommend using it on its own. It's definitely one of those types of palettes that probably needs a different palette to go with it, or just some different matte eyeshadows. I'm going to go ahead and throw this color right here in my crease. It's kind of a cool-ish toned brown, and that is going to be my first transition shade. And I've already primed my eyelids. I used the MAC Paint Pot in Soft Ochre, and I did set it with some translucent setting powder as well. And just so you know, I am using a Morphe M441. Yep. And then I'm going to take my Morphe M33, and now these do have pigment on them, but guess what? It's the colors that are already on the brushes, so that's good for me. And then I'm not putting this one as high. I'm definitely keeping this in the crease and lower, but I'm just using this to deepen. It's this color in the palette, by the way. This was the first one. This is the one I'm using right now. And it is a little darker, but it's much warmer. And I'm just putting that right under that color in the crease and a little bit on the eyelid. Now I already like to go in and define my outer corner. It makes it easier when I'm applying my shadow. Some people don't like to do this until the last step, but it is your makeup, so you do whatever you want. Now I know people who like a really precise line. I am not one that likes a super precise line on my outer eye. So I use more of a fluffy brush. If you like it more precise, you might want to use a different brush, but I'm using the Pure Cosmetics My Little Pony brush, and this is the one that they designed for their crease. I don't know if you can see that, but I just happen to like it for blending out the darker shadows. Oh, I should have tried that one, but I will go ahead and swatch these two. Yeah, the black is the matte, the brown is definitely a satin. Sorry, I meant to use those colors and I just forgot. I got carried away. I think I want to use the color Rebel here in the center. And so I'm actually just going to take that on my finger. It looks like a foiled shadow, so it looks like it'd be best applied with either a finger or like something like the MAC 224. And I would probably use Fix Plus with it if I were going to do that. Yeah, this is so pigmented. Ooh, we're going for a dark look today. The thing about applying it with your fingers is sometimes you do get messy. So I'm just going to take the one that had the crease one, blend that out a little bit with no extra shadow or anything. And then with the bigger one, the transition color, I'm just going to blend everything and blend all those edges together. Now I'm not loving how heavy this eye look is for me. I don't really go for heavy looks. If you like that type of look, this palette is going to work wonderful for you. This is just not my favorite type of eye look. So I'm actually going to go into my Pixie one real quick. And I'm going to take this lightest color right here in this corner. on a clean finger. I'm going to use my pinky just because I'm going to build it in from the inner corner throughout just to lighten it up a little bit. I like that a lot better personally for myself, but makeup is everyone's preference. If you like a lot of heavy looks, I do feel like you will like this palette. It's definitely one that I think you're going to need to pair with another palette because one matte and one satin is not enough to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 basically foiled shadows work. I will go ahead and swatch a couple with clean fingers. So right here, I do feel like the pigmentation is good. I'm not even sure if my camera is focusing right now. I can't tell. These were not great swatches. By no means pay attention to how shitty they swatched. But there's a lot of pigmentation in it. They blended nicely. They're really smooth. So I do think it's a decent palette. I don't think it's a dud by any means. It's just not my cup of tea. So moving on. The next thing I see in my box, let's see, is this Pure Bronze and Brighten palette. Oh, it's covered in plastic. Oh, it's just that. I was like, why can't I open it? Now, these are very pretty colors. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say those are pigmented. Those were kind of heavy swatches, but damn. I can already tell you from swatching, I do not want to use that as a bronzer. I would never use something that metallic for bronzing. The blush could be pretty, and the highlight looks absolutely gorgeous. So I'm going to go ahead and put some foundation concealer on, and I'll be right back to play with this palette. Alright, well I am back. I have my base on. I did use my concealer and I did contour just a little bit. I've set my face and I also applied a little bit of bake. And just in case you were wondering, the palette didn't give me any fallout. Granted that the only shade I really used from the palette was on my finger, so that's usually the best case scenario. You're not going to get a whole lot of fallout if you're using your finger. But if you feel like you want to do your base before doing your eye makeup, I feel like that's a palette you definitely can, depending on the mattes that you pick. Sorry, I'm just like a little slightly congested still. It's not a great feeling. Because I know I'm not going to like that bronzer, I'm going to mostly apply my bronzer with something else, just so I have bronze going on. I have to go to work later, so I don't really want to put that bronzer on my face. Alright. Can you even tell that I applied bronzer? Maybe you can a lot. I don't know, in person I'm having trouble seeing it, but it's fine. Alright, let me get a blush brush and we can try out that blush. So I'm just going to tap into it a little bit. It does come off quite well. I'm going to tap off my brush. That's pretty. Yeah, I can see the pigmentation already. I will say it has that glow that's accentuating all of my texture in my cheeks. So I'm going to cool it on that blush. I'm going to tap a different blush right on top just to kind of tone down that shininess. Because if you look in here, none of my pores are really camouflaged. So I do like the primer. I don't think it's ideal if you have really large pores like me. And in case you were wondering, I use the Sonia Kashuk Soft Matte Foundation, and that usually does not accentuate my pores. Not that it hides them, but it doesn't accentuate them, and I feel like that blush just brought them right back out. It's a pretty color though, so if you don't struggle with any texture on your cheeks, it would be probably an ideal blush. Tone down that shininess. The next thing in that trio is that highlight, so I'm gonna dip into that. I'm using a Morphe M501 brush. Woo! Yeah, that's a highlight. It's a super pretty, super pretty, super pretty. I like to put a little highlight in my forehead just to like unify the highlight. I feel like if you just have one strip on your cheek, it kind of looks a little weird. Now I went with a really light hand. You can make this blinding. Yeah, like that. It's a pretty metallic, like wet kind of looking highlight, so I do like the highlight a lot. I'll probably use that. I'm going to take a little bit on my pinky actually, pop that in the inner corner of my eye. Now I usually don't use shiny brow highlights because I have a scar right here and shiny will accentuate it, but for the sake of this video. Next item. And actually, I believe it's our last. But it is the Girlactik Matte Lip Paint. And this is in the shade somewhere. Not on the box? Not on the box, I guess. Demure. It might be that. But I just horribly botched that. I'm gonna quickly try and clean that up before it dries. Don't you love that when you're way too self-confident about putting on a liquid lipstick and then you annihilate your face? I'm just putting a little bit back on in that corner that I cleaned up just so that the line kind of looks sharp and less blurry from where I fixed it. But it's a pretty color. It's definitely like kind of a vampy type of lip. But here is the final look I made with my Boxycharm. The things that I used that weren't in it obviously was that Pixie palette. I used the Patrick Star setting powder and the Sonia Kashuk foundation. And then my trusty Tarte Shape Tapes. I used a combo of light sand and fair neutral. Light sand I put all over. I dot this right in my inner corners. I dropped my beauty blender on the floor. It's so dirty now. I have to wash it. I need to wash it anyways. And then I did re-go over my blush with this Tarte blush in Risque. And I did use my Lisa Frank bronzer. This came in an Ipsy, I think. But It's Lisa Frank by Glamour Dolls. It's quite a warm bronzer. Here's what it looks like. But those were all the products I used on my face. Overall, I do feel like the value of the box was really great. I did pretty much like everything I tried. This is definitely a decent brow pencil. This is not my type of brow pencil. I like the actual pencils and not so much the like thicker tipped pencils. So, but it's not a bad product. Let me find my sheet somewhere. It didn't even say. It was Rock 2018. So that is a full-size product and it retails for $24. So if you were needing a new brow pencil, you're set. This Girlactik matte lip paint retails for $23. I do really like the formula. It feels pretty comfortable. It's been on my lips for maybe a couple minutes now. And there's only that one corner that I had to touch up that's not dry yet. So I would say that's an overall great winner for me. This primer, I believe it is full size. It's 1 fluid ounce in this, so either way that's a decent amount. And it retails for $38. And then the Glam Metals palette by Crown Brushes retails for $25. This is probably my least favorite product, not because I find it's a bad product, I just don't think I'm gonna have a whole lot of use for it because of course the clock goes off. So I did the math and the overall value of the entire box is $144. So that is not bad, and I liked almost everything I used in this box, so that is also a plus. Do I think it was a super winner? No, but am I super excited for it? Yes. Well, that is all I have for you today. Have a wonderful day, my dears. I'll see you in the next one. I realized after I ended the video, I never even put mascara on. Does anyone not make a face when they put on their mascara? That's what I really want to know. Now that I have mascara on, we can say this is a finished look. I can't believe I forgot to put on mascara. Oh, okay.